Welcome to the Subway Conversation, Chad. My name is Jamie Malloy, and I'm here to discuss some Yankees and Mets baseball with you all and my co host, Joe Dalio. So, without any further delay, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It is going great, Jamie. How you doing?
Fantastic. As we talked about backstage, obviously the Mets lost today, but the Braves lost, which is good. So they're only 2 games out of the wild card. You learned what Hawk Tua meant, which was crazy because she got to throw out the first pitch at the Mets game today.
Yes, I see. I learned so much. I hope our audience learns on this show from us, but I I learned from you. I learned from other people, and I read about that whole thing today, and I didn't see it. It's been a very busy week. In fact, I appreciate you moving the show to Thursday this week. My church has a vacation Bible thing all week, and my daughter's the kids pastor in charge of it all. And it was her birthday yesterday too. So just a whole bunch of things going on. I'm glad we're able to move it here. So I haven't been able to pay as much attention, heard about that whole thing. And, my profession, I teach a foreign language. But what you just mentioned there and the whole Haktua thing was a foreign language for me. So I thank you not only for moving and accommodating my schedule this week, but teaching me new and exciting things here in the world that that now I can consider myself just a little bit more intelligent, knowing what some of those things are.
I apologize for describing a very grotesque thing to you, being Catholic and Christian and everything. I apologize for that.
No, I absolutely, no offense. I mean, you explained what it was, and that's what it is, and that no offense taken here.
Anyway, so it's my turn to actually start this week. So let's do this. So we begin with the injury report, and unfortunately, we have to start out with one Jazz Chisholm Jr., the third baseman. On Tuesday, Chisholm Jr. had an MRI in Chicago that determined he suffered an injury to his left ulnar collateral ligament, or as we call it in abbreviation terms, UCL.
Mm-hmm.
It happened when he slid into home plate during the Yankees' 12-2 loss to the White Sox on Monday night. Ooh. Anyway.
And I take it was a head first slide.
Yes, it was. Baseball, one of the four major sports where you can still use your head, unlike the NFL. So, anyway, the team is determining if surgery is needed. Oswald Peraza, the infielder, was called up to replace Chisholm Jr. The 24-year-old has been hitting much better since I saw him at Innovative Field when they played the Red Wings, getting his batting average up from 167 to 240.
Wow.
With 11 home runs, and he's also 11-18 in stolen, or 8-11, 8-4-11 in stolen bases in the minors. So it looks like they're going to try to make him play that Jazz Chisholm role in terms of being athletic and stealing bases and everything like that. And he's added a toe tap to be able to get him to hit the ball better, kind of like what Torres was doing when he was struggling.
Okay.
So to give him more leverage on hitting the ball. And now we're going to move on to number 2, not the musical Hamilton. We're talking about right-handed pitcher Ian Hamilton. Hamilton will continue throwing live batting practice sessions this week after throwing a bullpen session this past weekend. Number 3, we have Clark John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. His name is my name too. The right-handed pitcher. Yesterday, Schmidt threw 32 pitches in live batting practice. Manager Aaron Boone said everything went well. That totals 3 live batting practices for Schmidt, who is scheduled to throw one more before getting into games. GM Brian Cashman has said that Schmidt should begin a rehab assignment around August 22nd, which could bring him on track to return to the majors around the second week of September. And whenever we go out, the Yankees always shout, Clark, John, Jacob, Jingleheimer, Schmidt.
Da,
Da-da.
da, 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 da.
And number 4, we have Cody in a package so Poteet, the right-handed pitcher. Poteet threw 25 pitches in live batting practice on August 10th. He is scheduled to toss another live batting session today. According to GM Brian Cashman, he is expected to be a potential depth piece late in the year. Let's now turn it over to Joe for some Mets news. Joe.
All right. Couple of comments there first. Now, you got to be tempted to call the pitcher, call the guy Alexander Hamilton, right? It's tempting. And here's what I want to see. Okay. Now, when batters go to the plate or when relief pitchers come in the game and stuff, they play their walk-up music and things like that. The Mets, Edwin Diaz has his Timmy trumpet there, and enter Sandman, for the other
Rivera.
for Rivera. So just one of these times when Schmidt comes in, what do you think I want them to play as he
Jingleheimer,
right? That would make my baseball fandom life if that ever happened. So just saying, I would love to see it.
It would definitely reach a younger audience, a much younger audience, younger than the Swifties for football right now. But that's another conversation for another show. But
that's it. I don't even know if today's young people even know that song. It might actually, trigger memories for older fans. Who knows? But anyway, I'd love to see it. Now, not much to talk about as far as Mets news here. It seems like the last few weeks I've had a ton of information here, and really not that much going on. Now, Starling Marte, I think when we talked last week, I said we really didn't have, much update on him. But, he's been kind of touring the minor leagues here in the last week. So he started an A-ball, and now he's been doing some rehab in AAA. So it's not going to be too far here or too long before Starling Marte is back. The only thing is, it's going to be hard to make some decisions here. I mean, not a bad decision, not a bad situation to have to make those decisions because, the Mets outfield has been playing, quite well. So, the challenge is going to be, fitting Marte in there and, figuring out some playing time for some other guys in there. Some other news here, Sean Reed-Foley, again, the Mets can use all the middle relief help that they can. He's in AAA or was in AAA, doing the rehab assignment with Syracuse, and so far pitched 2 games, 2 1/3 innings, and gave up 2 hits, 2 earned runs. So struggling a little bit there, but hopefully he can get back to where he was. He was pretty consistent when he was with the Mets, before his injury. To make room, because actually I believe Reed-Foley's back, Reed Garrett was activated from the 15-day IL, again talking about middle relief depth. Good to have him back, although he struggled in his return because he did pitch a couple of games with the Mets this week, but gave up 2 runs in 2 innings. So he too, getting back to the swing of things. Now, to make room for him, they sent Alex Young down to AAA Syracuse. So good to have those middle relievers back. Again, hopefully they could pitch as well as they were pitching before they left, and maybe it just take a little bit of time there. And again, it would be great to see Starling Marte back in the lineup as well. So that's really it as far as transactions and injury news and things like that. So, at least for now. So why don't we send it back to you, Jamie, and you can give us some more updated Yankees news here.
I'd be honored to do that, and rightfully so. We start with, or rightfully Soto, as we're going to talk about Soto's first 3 home run game, and also how it's the second 3-run home run game done by a Yankee this year.
Mm-hmm.
While Aaron Judge's verdict is innocent for history, Juan Soto saying, "I object." People are seeming to give Judge all the publicity and the fame for his historic season while ignoring Juan Soto's historic season of his own. On Tuesday night, number 22 of the New York Yankees recorded his first 3-home run game in a 4-1 victory over the Chicago White Sox. True, Aaron Judge is the heavy favorite to win AL MVP, but he's being a team player by supporting Soto's non-discussed regular or record season. And we have a quote here. That's who he is. That's why he's the greatest hitter in the game, Judge said.
Wow.
Aw, how nice, Judge. After celebrating his 3 home runs, Soto tossed his verbal flowers back towards the captain, implying that Judge's 42 homers and 107 RBIs make him the greatest hitter in the world as well. And we have a quote. Look at his numbers. He's unbelievable, Soto said. He makes my job easier. When you're hitting in front of a guy like that, you know you're getting pitches. Hey, snitches get pitches, right? He's the greatest one.
It's nice to see 2 superstars getting along well there, you know?
Mm-hmm. 2 superstars. That is what they are. Soto becomes the second Yankee to have at least 3 home run, to have a 3-run home run game after rookie first baseman Ben Afiel Rice did it in a 14-4 win over the Boston Red Sox on July 6th. Soto now has 33 homers and 85 RBIs in 117 games with a 192 WRC plus. Joe, what do you think about the media underestimating Soto and giving all the praise to Judge?
Yeah, I honestly don't think they're underestimating him. Judge again is more of the MVP candidate, and obviously has been there longer. I don't think they're ignoring Soto. I mean, first of all, that's an amazing accomplishment. The only complaint I have is that particular game I had Judge for a home run prop, so I needed him to hit a home run that night, and he had his chances. So the wrong guy kept hitting the home runs, in my opinion. So no big loss because I had Gunnar Henderson hit one tonight. So I'm good. But anyway, I was rooting for Judge, obviously, to hit one. But a great game by Soto, who's been doing great things for the Yankees all year. And, like I said, I don't think he's getting ignored. I think people see what he's doing. I think, maybe it's been a little bit more quiet lately. Or he started off so well that everybody was talking about him. Again, he was the newcomer. Aaron Judge started slow, at the beginning of the season. And maybe people have not talked about him as much as Aaron Judge has just exploded and, just hit his 300th home run the other night, which is cool. So I think just because Judge has been doing so well the last few months of the season here, maybe they're not talking about Soto as much, but this will certainly start the conversation again. Great game by him, and he just shows again that he's a very valuable player for the Yankees to have as well.
Yeah, I can see your point there. It's not that they're ignoring him. It's just he's been more of the silent majority, like quiet in terms of how he's gone his business. So
just a little overshadowed by Judge.
Just a little bit. A little bit more.
You are spot on with these musical references here tonight.
Thank you. Anyway, speaking of Aaron Judge, let's move on. Let's move on to him. Aaron Judge quickest to 300 home runs. All rise. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how in the world do we have a player for the New York Yankees who has already hit 300 career home runs? More importantly, how did a Judge get to this milestone in only 955 games? Well, we have a final verdict. We in the judges' chambers at Yankee Stadium find Aaron Judge to be innocent. Or not guilty. In simpler terms, New York Yankees All-Star Aaron Judge hit his 300th career home run last night in a dominant win against the Chicago White Sox, who up until Monday, they looked like a team that couldn't even beat a major league wiffle ball team. But hey, we also talked about how Chicago's, got an interim manager by the name of Grady Sizemore, who older fans may know, and he's trying to help them with a bunch of younger prospects. So And like we said, it's better to be a White Sox fan because they're not going anywhere, unlike the A's. And just think, Joe, even though you lost to the A's, at least you're staying in New York. You're not moving to Vegas.
That's very
So,
true.
anyway, what's amazing about this feat is he had 300 career home runs all on one team with the Yankees, and he did this before playing in his 1,000 career game. In fact, when Alex Rodriguez hit his 500th home run against the Kansas City Royals back in August of 2007, he was in his prime, but playing for his third team in the New York Yankees. Judge has improved every year since hitting his first homer back in 2016, but now he is getting the littler hits as well, getting singles and smaller hits too. So he's been a much better all-around player since entering the big leagues.
Right.
And anyway, number 99 is also one of very few next to Cal Ripken Jr. When he played his entire career hitting 300 home runs while playing his entire career on one team from 1981 to 2001. So, Joe, what do you think of Aaron Judge getting the 300 home runs so fast and only doing it on just one team? Because that's rare in baseball that somebody can do it all on just one team. Usually a guy will hit his first, back in the day, a guy would hit his first home run on one team, then the free agent would come, and then they would hit their 300 with another team and so on. But what do you think of Judge doing it all just with the Yankees? So quick.
Love that. You know, again, like you said, in modern day MLB, you don't see that too often with guys staying with the same team. I would not be surprised if Judge stays a Yankee as long, you know, for his entire MLB career. I'd be very surprised if he played anywhere else. You know, the Yankees are very good at that, you know, with Jeter and you know, some of their other, you know, superstars and stuff that, you know, they tend to stay. And the Yankees have the resources. You know, it's not like it's the Royals or the A's or somebody where it's very difficult to keep these superstars. The Yankees have the resources and the tradition and everything to be able to keep those guys there. So,
although sorry.
Go ahead.
To your point, though, the A's may be able to keep their superstars once they get through Sacramento and get to Vegas. That might change.
That will certainly make it easier for them. You know, with the Yankees being in New York, I mean, they probably have the easiest time keeping superstars. But anyway, yeah, so I won't be surprised if Judge spends his entire career with the Yankees. You know, it couldn't happen to a better guy. Now, I didn't actually realize. I knew he was going for his 300th home run. I didn't realize until after it happened, and I read this, that he's the fastest ever to get to 300. So that's very impressive there as well. And again, couldn't happen to a better guy. He's the type of guy that, again, I'm not a Yankees fan, but love to see guys like him succeed. And you could say all you want about Yankee Stadium and all you got to do is pop the ball up to get it out and stuff. But to me, that's not an excuse. That doesn't put any damper on this whatsoever. I believe if Aaron Judge was anywhere, he'd be doing the same thing, you know, and he's a right-handed hitter, so it doesn't affect righties as much as lefties as far as the short porch in right field, although he's very good at punching it out there. So great to see. You know, hopefully he continues his success, and he's going to break further records, and, you know, hopefully he does it all with the Yankees, which, again, I'd be shocked if he plays for anybody else in his major league career.
Hey, even back in the day, like you said, it's hard nowadays, but back in the day it was harder too because of the way like free agency was. Like for Cal Ripken to play 21 years all in Baltimore during, especially through three different decades, the 80s, 90s, and into 2001, that was even more impressive too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys have opportunities to go to other teams too. You know, I'm sure Ripken had plenty of opportunities to leave. I'm sure Jeter had opportunities to leave. You know, these guys that stay with these major league teams, you know, for their entire career, they have opportunities to go other places. If you're a good player, you know, and all these guys are great players. And, Judge is going to get those opportunities too. But, again, if I'm a major league player, having this kind of success in Yankee Stadium and the legacy that I'm building, there's no way I would, no matter how much you can pay me, there's no way I'd want to go anyplace else. And I think Judge feels that way too. Again, he can make more money, maybe somebody else, but the legacy that he's building and building it as a Yankee, why would he want to go anywhere else? And I doubt he will. Same
thing with Anthony Volpe. I think Anthony Volpe might play his entire career as a Yankee too. We'll see, but moving on. Now let's actually talk about the two Yankee bashers, as I called them last night on Prime together, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. While the Yankees' regular season has gone to plan, so have Judge and Soto. The 1A, 1B punch has shared a nugget of history, becoming the first duo to reach base safely 427 times last season.
Wow.
The last pair of MLB, or this season, not last season.
Yeah.
Soto wasn't on the team last year. My bad, folks. The last pair of MLB teammates to reach more entering August was Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth for the 1930 Yankees with 436. While we knew Judge would be chasing more history, the signing of Soto has been extra wonderful too.
Mm-hmm.
Judge and Soto seem to feed off of each other's greatness to make themselves better. And if they were singing Mariah Carey and karaoke, they'd be singing "We Belong Together." Anyway, additionally, you have the acquisition of former All-Star Jazz Chisholm Jr. once he gets healthy off the 10-day disabled list. He's still been a great addition for them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Definitely.
a little minor setback, but he'll get back. Has been an instant hit, but he's only been here for a week.
Mm-hmm.
This trio could be a reimagined version of the 1927 Murders Row lineup: DiMaggio, Ruth, and Gehrig. Could the Yankees dawn a new era of greatness past October? I think they can. So, Joe, what do you think of the Yankees' good fortunes with Judge, Soto, and even Chisholm before he got put on the IL?
Yeah, it's amazing fortune. Now, the Yankees had high hopes for Juan Soto, excuse me. But I think they're getting more than they expected, honestly. I don't think they expected him to be this good and to have this much of an impact on this lineup. So I think he's been beyond expected. Again, like we've talked about all season long here, it's going to be difficult. And now we obviously haven't been talking about Jazz Chisholm too long here because he's only been with the Yankees for a short time. But, we've said it since he's been here. It's going to be very difficult to keep both of them, Soto and Chisholm. So they're going to have to make some decisions and, maybe make some maneuvering and things like that. So, that I'm going to be very curious to see what happens with that. So, but I'll say this, if they are able to keep all of them and have that core lineup there with Chisholm and Soto and Judge and guys like Volpe and some of these younger guys that they got coming up here, this team is going to be very good. I mean, they have a very good chance to win the World Series this year, and they can extend that opportunity for several seasons down the road, if they're able to keep all these guys.
Yeah, go back to being the dynasty again, which is good. So, especially, we'll see how they do, because don't forget, Joe, this would be their first playoff with the pitch clock, is obviously they didn't make it last year because that was the first playoff as a whole with the pitch clock. It'll be interesting to see how they do with that in the playoffs, because the one thing, like I said, we always talk about the pitch clock, but the one thing I like about it is at least it kind of reduces the wear and tear that these guys have to face, especially during blowout games too.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So, yeah, I there's so many things about the pitch clock I love.
And you need it, especially for a 162 game season when guys are starting to get worn down and like they're all tired after a blowout loss. And at least, like I said, it gives them a chance to move on to the next game quicker, and they're not as tired after they're kept fresh each game.
Right. Exactly.
Which is good. So anyway, let's turn it back over to Joe one more time for more Mets news. Joe?
All right. Now, unfortunately, the news in Mets land is not good. Perfect segue here, Jamie, because you were just talking about people getting worn down and, players kind of getting tired here as we head to the last third of the season. I'm seeing that with the Mets a little bit. Again, we didn't know in the beginning of the season what we were going to get with this team. And, we got the first third of the season, they were awful. Then the second part of the season, they were amazing. And now, things are tough. And, I've been talking for the last couple of weeks about this brutal road trip that they had, a 10-game road trip, which was part of the schedule, but an extra game that they had to play. Again, flying from LA to play a one-game makeup in St. Louis and then going back to Denver and then having to go all the way to Seattle. So, I was curious to see what kind of effect this was going to have. Now, I was hoping for maybe a 5-5 road trip. They didn't quite get that. They ended up 4-6 on that 10-game road trip. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Angels, which, that was one part of it that I thought could have been a lot better. They did what they were supposed to against the Rockies. They took 2 out of 3 there. They won the game. Again, as I said last week, I expected a tired Mets team to get blown out in St. Louis just because they, were so tired. But it was the Cardinals that never showed up for that game, and the Mets won it 6-0. And now the Mets' next step was in Seattle, which was after our last show here. And that was pretty disastrous. And I think the Mets' fatigue showed at that point. How's this for a bad 3-game series? The Mets were outscored 22-1. They were shut out 2 games in a row, scored a whole run that third game, and gave up 12 in that game. So outscored 22-1 in that Seattle series. So that hurt. But what hurts after that, you figure, okay, you get home, now a 9-game homestand, and the first 3 games are against the A's. So you figure, okay, with this 9-game homestand, 6 of the games are against 2 of the worst teams in baseball. You got the A's, 3 games. You got the Marlins, 3 games. Then the Orioles after that, which is tough. Now, the Mets ended up losing 2 out of 3 to the A's here. And if you want to be in a wild card race and you're trying to get back in after a tough road trip, you cannot lose 2 out of 3 at home to the Sacramento A's. All right. They made the A's look like the superior team here. And you can't do that. You got to show your colors here and show that you're the better team and take at least 2 out of 3. All right. So in the last week here, since we were last on, the Mets have gone 2-5. All right, which of course is not good. Now they won the last game in that Rockies series, swept by the Mariners, as we said, and lost 2 out of 3 to the Sacramento A's. So outscored 40-29, which is an average of about 6-4. So hitting could be better. You're scoring 4 runs a game, but that's not awful. But you're giving up almost 6 runs a game, and that's what's hurt the Mets, and that's going to kind of lead me into the next part of my discussion here. Well, actually, I'll wait. Now, let me talk about some of the hitting stars here, and again, that some of these guys continue to excel. Mark Vientos was quiet for the last couple of weeks before this one, but now reignited here. 3 home runs this week. He had 2 in today's game, 6 RBIs, and an 1165 OPS. That's awesome. Now, Pete Alonso was kind of a Jekyll and Hyde this week. 2 home runs, 8 RBIs that you certainly can't complain about there. But the average was low, and he had 10 strikeouts, which is a little concerning. And strikeouts have been an issue all year for Alonso, so hopefully he can improve there. But again, we'll take the 8 RBIs. Francisco Lindor, nothing special. He did have a home run, 3 RBIs, but he batted .400 this week and an OPS over 1,000, 1044. Jeff McNeil doing his thing again. He had a home run and an RBI, but an 848 OPS. Jose Iglesias, 3 RBIs and batted .333. A couple of guys, though, are struggling. And hopefully, these are guys that have carried the offense throughout the season. Francisco Alvarez and Brandon Nimmo. And Nimmo, both of them have kind of had this slump extended. Now, this past week, they went 1 for 16, both of them. Alvarez and Nimmo both had 1 hit and 16 at-bats. So that's concerning. They're both good enough that I think they'll overcome that and hopefully, get back on track. But again, pitching is the real problem for the Mets here. Now, not by David Peterson. All right. David Peterson continues to do well. He had 2 starts this week, got the win in both of those starts. So that's cool. So he's 6-1 as far as the win-loss record on the year. But this week he pitched 11 1/3 innings, only gave up 1 earned run, 7 hits, 9 strikeouts. So Peterson continues to do well. Now, we talk about players wearing down, and I've mentioned this for the last few weeks here. My concern is you got some older veterans here, older guys that haven't pitched a lot of innings lately in past seasons, in recent seasons, that I was a little concerned they'd start to wear down. So let's start with Jose Quintana. Now, he had 2 starts this week. He did pitch 10 2/3. So again, you want to shoot for those 5 innings, decent starts there. However, in the 10 2/3 innings, he gave up 9 earned runs, 11 hits, and they hit .262 against him. So obviously that's concerning. Luis Severino's been struggling for a while. He had 1 start this week, 5 innings, so they got that out of him, but he did give up 4 earned runs, 6 hits in those, although he did get 8 strikeouts. So again, he's one of those that wearing down a little bit. Now, Sean Manaea is another one that how much longer can he go? Again, he's another pitcher that hasn't pitched a lot in the last few years because of injuries and things like that. So he only went 3 innings in his start and gave up 3 earned runs in that. That was one of the games in Seattle. And they had a poor start by Paul Blackburn. This is a guy they got at the trade deadline. Pitched a couple of really good games on the road during that road trip. But this was his first home game. And this was a game against his old team, the Sacramento A's. And he got hit hard. He only went 4 innings, gave up 6 earned runs. So that was a little disheartening. And I don't know if it's because the A's had him figured out. I don't know if he was a little nervous for his first home start in New York. But hopefully he can recover. And he's going to get another start or 2 on this homestand as well. So hopefully he can come back with that. Other than that, again, some, relief. The guys continue to struggle in relief. Ottavino and people like that. I mentioned, Reed Garrett is struggling as he came back here. So, those guys need to get going. On the bright side here, Phil Maton pitched 4 1/3 innings in relief, only gave up 1 earned run and 5 strikeouts there. So he's another guy they got at the deadline and has been very valuable in that bullpen. Another guy that's kind of been all over the place, my favorite name to pronounce here, Huáscar Brazoban, right? They picked him up at the deadline as well, and he was hit hard his last week, when he first got with the Mets. This week, though, went 3 2/3 innings, only gave up a hit and an earned run. So, it was a home run, but pitched a lot better. Okay, so obviously, we talk about guys wearing down, and the pitching staff as a whole, both relief and starters, struggling here. And, you may ask, well, how do we fix this? And it's a question I don't really have an answer to because, again, it's an older, pitching staff here. And I think these guys are starting to wear down. Now, maybe they get a second wind and, get as we go into the home stretch here. And I don't know. I mean, it would have certainly helped to have somebody like Kodai Senga there, and pitching every 5 or 6 days. So, again, Peterson was out for the first part of the season, so he's fresh and he's pitching like it because he's doing well. But some of these starters like Minaya, Severino, Quintana, what are they going to do as we go further down the road here? And, even Jose Buto struggled this week. So he hasn't pitched a lot of innings, in the past, obviously this being his first season in the majors here. So, it'd be interesting to see what happens with him. So again, I don't have answers for that. So what's coming up here for the Mets now? As I said, 3 games next against the Miami Marlins. You have to win at least 2 of those. And in fact, I'd be happy if they can win 2 out of 3 against Miami, win 2 out of 3 against Baltimore. That, would kind of fix this homestand a little bit. If they could sweep the Marlins and then take 2 out of 3 against Baltimore, that would be amazing. All right. But let's go 4-2 in these next 6 games here before they go out on the road again. And again, as rough as a week as it really a couple of weeks it's been for the Mets. Again, this was one of their toughest stretches of the season, a 10-game road trip with a lot of travel. If they can kind of get away from this fatigue here, win some of these games that they're supposed to win, as bad as it's been, I was looking at this before, they're still only 2 games out of the wild card. Now, it's kind of a little disheartening because a couple of weeks ago they were, a game or so ahead in that 3rd spot. But even now, again, with like 40 games to go, they're 2 out of the wild card. So certainly not beyond the realm of possibility to still make a run and get there. Now, the only problem is you got 2 of the teams, San Diego and Arizona, that all of a sudden just can't lose and that are playing, they're only like each about 3 or 4 games behind the Dodgers. It's not like the Dodgers are playing horribly. The Dodgers are playing good ball. I mean, they are getting some players like Mookie Betts back and they're going to go on a run. But the fact that the Padres and Diamondbacks are only 3-4 games behind the Dodgers just shows how extremely well they've been playing. And they are like way ahead now. I think one of the teams, the Padres, is like 5 games ahead in the wild card race there. So, it's going to be tough to catch them. The Mets are going to just have to hope that the Braves keep sputtering because I think right now, the way it's looking, if the Diamondbacks and Padres continue to go at the pace that they're going, really the Mets' only chance is going to be to catch the Braves. So that remains to be seen. But again, only 2 games. And with more games against the Braves, I believe. I haven't looked that far ahead on the schedule. But I know there's at least, or I believe there's at least 1 more series against the Braves. And again, 40 games to go, basically. So, they could right the ship. It's going to be difficult because, again, you talk about wearing down. You talk about players that haven't played a full season here, especially the pitchers. And, it may be, difficult to get that second win that I was talking about, but we shall see. So still being optimistic here. And, we'll see if they can turn it around and, again, win 4 out of the next 6 here at Citi Field.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Joe. And guess what? It is now that time in our show for our question of the week segment. So, Joe, would you like to give it a try?
I would, especially since I was so sure with last week's answer that I was correct. And I was put in my place and knocked to the canvas. So I am ready to recover and get this one right.
All right, Joe, here's your question. Who holds the record for the most career games played in the MLB? Is it Carl Yastrzemski, Ricky Henderson, Willie Mays, or Pete, I got caught gambling Rose?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I have an idea. Now, Willie Mays played from like 51 or so
I
to
forgot to mention
7.
the late Willie Mays, R.I.P. by the way.
Yes. He played 22 seasons, and he was pretty much healthy through those 22 seasons. Pete Rose, I think, played for about 25 seasons. Ricky Henderson, I don't think he played that long. I mean, I think he may have played, he only played maybe 15. And so we got Rose, Mays, Henderson, and who was the other one you mentioned?
Oh, yeah, Strumsky.
Okay. Now he played, I think, about 20 seasons. All right, so I am going to go with Pete Rose.
You got it. Correct.
All right.
Pete Rose played in 3,562 career games, while in the other 3,561, he was gambling and
He was managing.
ended up getting caught. I'm just and anyway, and looking fast forward to 2024, and betting's now sports betting's legal. So
Yep, that's good. I figured it was either him or Mays, but yeah, I think he definitely played longer than Willie Mays did.
Anyway, now let's move on to the Yankees-Orioles AL East stuff. Beasts of the East here. After last night's game, the New York Yankees are a half a game ahead of the Orioles for first place in the AL East. While both teams have flashed and struck out during certain stretches, the division has still been competitive. The schedule still favors the Yankees on paper, as FanDuel bets that the Yankees will take the AL East for the second time in 3 years. As for the O's, they have a brutal stretch where they will play 12 games against teams with winning records. New York has a chance to blow the division lead wide open if they take care of business during this late sprint. If the Orioles play well, however, things could be decided on the last day of the year. Fasten your seatbelts, folks, because this could be one radical ride towards the finish. So, Joe, who do you think will take the AL East and why?
All right, let's see. First of all, I love the fact that we have like an old-fashioned pennant race going on here. Now, I wish winning the division meant a little more. Until they change the playoff format, it doesn't mean as much. Now, I'm not saying I want it to be like it used to be back in the old days before the wild card, where one of these teams wouldn't even be making the playoffs, right? We had that old-fashioned pennant race type thing, and the division winner went to the playoffs. You don't win your division, you were done. I love the wild card, though, because it makes it fair, except, again, we'll talk about my complaints about the playoff system later. I do think the Yankees win the division, just because I think they have a little more experience. Now, the Orioles, as young as they are, they won the division last year. So it's not like they're like, they're inexperienced and it's their first time around the block here. I mean, they won it last year. So, certainly they believe that they can win it again. I just think, just a little bit more experience with the Yankees. I think the talent level up and down, especially in the lineup. I mean, again, you can't criticize the Orioles lineup. But I think a little bit more depth in the Yankees lineup. I think, again, as good as the Orioles pitching is, the Yankees are just a tad better. And like you said, the Yankees have the easier schedule going forward. So I honestly do believe that it's going to go right down to the last couple of weeks of the season. But I honestly think that the Yankees eventually take the division.
All right. Anyway, let's move on to the WNBA's um, favorite punching bag, but a fan favorite to all little girls growing up to wanting to be great. Hey, be great like Kate in this case, and kind of like might be like Mike or whatever. So, Caitlin Clark.
Mhm.
How does Caitlin Clark spend her Olympic break? She does it like how many generational players snubbed from the U.S. women's Olympic roster does. She does sort of down traveling. And the first thing that came up when she hooped her way out of bed instead of hopped out of bed was, gee, I want to go to the Bronx and watch the Yankees play. As a result, she, excuse me, got to meet one of her MLB heroes in Aaron Judge.
Mhm.
While in the Yes booth during game 1 of a Saturday doubleheader against the Texas Rangers, Clark was asked about her shot to meet the big, literally and figuratively, Yankee superstar. Judge is a big human and quite the athlete too. He stands at 6'7" tall and looks like he could be a multi-sport athlete. She even was quoted saying that he could probably play football or even basketball if he wanted to.
Yep, I believe it.
And guess what? Clark is pretty tall for a female basketball player as she's 6 feet, but Judge is a mountain next to her. His height even towers opponents with his majestic home runs, even if he were Spud Webb at 5'6" or Nate Robinson 5'9". Height doesn't make Judge any less frightening. So Joe, what do you think of Tall One and other Tall One meeting each other during Caitlin Clark's guest appearance at Yankee Stadium?
Yeah, I didn't know about that. So I think it's pretty cool, that again, she takes advantage of her downtime a little bit and, gets to meet Aaron Judge. I didn't know she was a Yankees fan. I don't know where she's from. She's from the Midwest. I figured she'd be like a Cubs fan or something, but that's pretty cool, that she gets to meet, Aaron Judge. And like you said, there's not too many people, she's 6 foot. So, which is tall for a female. But I think that's kind of cool that she would get to meet him and get to take a little trip to the Bronx and see the Yankees play.
I agree with that. And she's a superstar of her own. I think Judge was probably more starstruck of her doing what she's doing for women's sports more than her being starstruck of him, maybe, if we're going to be honest.
Could be. Yeah. And like I said, I didn't see the interview there or I didn't see the, her in the booth or get together or whatever. But I think, excuse me, they just started playing again tonight.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, Joe, we're going to move on. Is the MLB growing the game in Bristol? The MLB is trying to grow the game at a stock car venue. You heard this right. On August 2nd, 2025, the Atlanta Braves will play the Cincinnati Reds at Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee. MLB has taken the initiative in bringing the game to location it has never been to, i.e. Field of Dreams in Dyer, Iowa, Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Sweet Home Alabama, and the Little League Classic in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which this year's edition will include the New York Yankees and the Detroit Tigers. Where would they go next, they asked? The MLB answered, Tennessee, like Tammy from the girls' room and the Amanda Show would say, my name's Tammy. I'm an exchange student from Tennessee. Tennessee is the only state that's never hosted a regular season MLB game. MLB has found a way to grow the game in forward-thinking ways. Examples such as special games in unique locations have helped, as well as rule changes like the ever popular pitch clock and bigger bases that have brought back quicker paced games and stolen bases back to baseball. Joe, what do you think of the MLB coming up with another forward thinking new idea for a special game, and especially moving it to Tennessee, where they're thinking about adding a team in Nashville as an expansion team? And I think it's a perfect time to do it because everybody from like California, Illinois, Michigan, New York are all moving down there now, and Tennessee's a great home market value. So what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I was going to say the exact same thing. If this is the first game in Tennessee, it's not going to be the last, because if and when baseball does expand, I think Nashville is the number one choice that you keep hearing about. So, with the way Nashville's growing, and it's an amazing city, and, it's gotten other sports there, and that succeed, like especially even, the Titans have been there for a while, but, to get, the Nashville Predators in the NHL, they've been successful ever since they've been there. They got a Major League Soccer team that sells out all the time and has been very successful. So sports work in Nashville, and baseball will eventually. But, again, this is weird to me. Perhaps with the racing venue, baseball's moving a little too fast to try something new. But it's not a bad idea to make Bristol a pit stop on the major league schedule. All right. I had to go there. All right. So if I'm getting too carried away, I'll be flagged for inappropriate puns. But I think, yeah, why not give it a try? I guess I'd prefer a game like this, than playing games in London or foreign cities or things like that. So it'll be interesting. I thinking about it offhand without seeing anything, I can't imagine it. I can't see how they're going to pull this off. But I'm sure they'll look into it. I'm sure they'll make it safe for the players, make it entertaining for the fans. So, why not? It'll be interesting to see. So, but again, it won't be the last game played in Nashville, because in the very near future, you're going to see regularly scheduled baseball games in Nashville and in Tennessee.
Yeah, and why not? You get the Tennessee Volunteers baseball team there doing well.
Yeah, and yeah, Knoxville's pretty close to Bristol, if I got my Tennessee geography correct.
Yeah, it is.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, Bristol, I've never been there, and I used to watch NASCAR. I don't anymore, but remembering what I do about, the Bristol racetrack, it seems like an ideal place where you could pull something like this off and get a Major League Baseball game in there. So, the stands are close, the seats are close to everything there. So I think it would be a good experience for the fans because, supposedly, I've only been to one NASCAR race, and it was in the Poconos. But supposedly Bristol is one of the best fan experiences, for NASCAR fans, for racing fans. And so I think because of the closeness of it and that intimate atmosphere there, I think it would be a good baseball watching experience as well.
Mm-hmm. Now let's take a look at the top 3 AL MVP candidates. Number 1, we have right fielder Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees. Is this even a question? Number 99 for the Yanks has been a phenom in the Bronx since his rookie year. He leads the league in home runs, batting average, and so on. Number 2, we have shortstop third baseman Gunnar Henderson of the Baltimore Orioles. Hendy finished 8th in MVP batting during his 2023 rookie season and a 956 OPS. This year, he's matured and improved as a batter. He is batting 285 with 28 home runs. Still, he is not Gunnar Catch Judge. All rise. At number 3, we have Bobby Witt Jr., the Kansas City Royals. Or the Kansas City Royals. Already one of the more well-rounded talents in today's MLB. The young shortstop could go down as one of the best in his generation. Playing for a young Kansas City team looking to end the Royals' playoff drought is harder than playing in the shadows of Gunnar Henderson or even his dad, Bobby Witt Sr. Still, Witt isn't looking for instant sensationalism. His play does the talking and acts like he's already been there. Joe, what do you think of my top 3 AL MVP candidates?
Yeah, I think those definitely are the top 3 candidates. And, if you're talking about Royals, and Bobby Witt is certainly the queen bee of the Royals there. But, I had to throw my Lord reference in there. So certainly, he would have a shot. Now, Gunnar Henderson is amazing. He's my MVP tonight. Like I said, he won me a 6-1 home run prop tonight. But again, I think Aaron Judge is far and away. I mean, as great as those 2 players are. And again, Bobby Witt is playing like he's been in the league for 10 years already. And I think part of that comes from having his father, in the majors as well. And being a part of that growing up. And both Witt and Henderson, don't be surprised if they're MVP in a future season. But to me, as great as those players are, and pretty much any other season, they're pretty much MVP. One of them anyway. I think Aaron Judge is head and shoulders above, not just height-wise, but based on what he's done this season, is far and away, the MVP over those 2 candidates. Again, taking absolutely nothing away from Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt.
Mm-hmm. And now let's move on to our top 3 NL candidates. Number 1, I have DH Shohei Ohtani of the LA Dodgers. Ohtani could join Frank Robinson's company as only the second MLB player to win both an AL and NL MVP award. His batting average of .316 is just 10 points shy of the batting title. Mm-hmm. Much like Bobby Witt Jr., Ohtani quietly goes about his business and acts like a professional. If he strikes out, he moves on and helps the next batter. If he hits a home run, he doesn't showboat and moves on to the next at bat. Number 2, we have first baseman Bryce Harper of the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies have been the hottest team in baseball since the All-Star break. Bryce Harper earns much of that praise. Harper has put his Tommy John surgery in the rearview mirror and has gone back to being Bryce Harper. He already has 24 homers after hitting that all of 2023. He's also hitting the ball on the ground, batting .278 with 67 RBIs. And number 3, we have shortstop Francisco Lindor of the New York Mets. Lindor appears on this list despite not making the NL All-Star team. In May, the shortstop was a long shot, batting only .195, and the Mets were 11 games under .500. Now Lindor's in the MVP race, and the Mets, well, not anymore, but were at the time in sole position of the 3rd NL wildcard spot. Mm-hmm. If the Mets make the playoffs, they can rely on Lindor to get them in the Cinderella run. So, Joe, what do you think of my top 3 NL MVP candidates?
Again, I'm thinking that's probably what the top 3 are. Now, if you would have told me in the middle of May that Francisco Lindor was going to be an MVP candidate, I would have laughed you, anybody that said that, out of the room. He was doing awful. Again, not even hitting 200. But now, I mean, he's just completely taken off. And again, no coincidence that the Mets, acceleration here and getting into the playoff race coincides with, his acceleration. And the cool thing about Francisco Lindor is he could do everything. I mean, first of all, he's an excellent fielder. But second of all, he can get, the 2-out hit. He can hit the home run. He gets RBIs, and productive hits. He steals, bases and a good chance he'll be a 30-30 guy again this year. I would not choose him for the MVP, though, at this point anyway, just because I think the other guys are little steps ahead of him. Now, we had this conversation, I think, at the halfway mark of the season where we were going over our awards predictions and, from this one to Cy Young and all that stuff. And I said on this show that at that point, Bryce Harper would have been my MVP candidate, even though Ohtani's stats were maybe a tad better. I just thought that, Bryce Harper was the heart and soul of the Phillies, and they were playing almost 700 baseball. And I thought that, if we're talking valuable player, that it would be Harper. And he's still having an amazing season. And he's cooled off a little bit, and the Phillies have cooled off a little bit. Still an amazing player. So at this point, now a month and a half later since we discussed this, I am going to change my pick here. And I think just Ohtani has only gotten better as the year has gone on. Not only statistically, but and again, you want to talk about guys doing everything well and doing it quietly and doing it humbly. It's just amazing that this guy continues to get better. And I just think, again, the Dodgers were missing Mookie Betts. Freddie Freeman was gone for a short time. So I just think now, if I'm voting and if it's the end of the season, I'm voting for MVP. I am changing my vote. I was going to vote for Bryce Harper. Now I think I would have no choice but to go with Ohtani.
Yep, I agree with that. Well, it looks like we come to the end of our show. But before we go, we have a programming note to leave you with. Next week will be our last Subway Conversation podcast for the season on Wednesday, August 21st. And we will be turning our attention over to the season 2 or our second annual Buffalo Sports Conversation Room beginning Tuesday, August 27th. We hope that you all continue to join us on Tuesday evenings at 8 o'clock p.m., as well as joining us again next season for season 2 and our second annual Subway Conversation Chat. Thank you. So, Joe, where can we find you on social media on Thursday, August 15th, 2024 at 9:03 p.m. on this wonderful podcast?
Yeah, weird to say because we've never done a Thursday show here. But we'll go back to our Wednesday next week. Joe Dell Sports on Twitter. I put my 2 cents about baseball, football, all other sports as well. You can catch me there.
Okay, yep. And then you can find me, yours truly, on Bill's Chat 1, at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dogtags on X, and also the forkball.com, where I write about all sports. Thank you guys very much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube page, Driving to the Top Productions. To tune into more Driving to the Top content, like our open mic night show, you can tune into that every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock p.m. on our YouTube page. Some of our X's pages, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also follow Joe and I on starting next Tuesday at 8 o'clock p.m., the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room on Driving to the Top, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to the Subway Conversation Chat with Jamie and Joe. See you next week, folks.
Have a great week, everybody.